You're just another nobody. Off my jet, or I'll drag you out myself, barked the flight attendant, Michael Trent, his voice slicing through the cabin. He punctuated it with a sharp slap across the woman's face, without knowing that this moment would change everything. The private jet's wheels hissed against the tarmac at a quiet airfield outside Baltimore. Inside, the hum of the engines was the only sound, their power slowly winding down. Michael had a reputation among crew, efficient, precise, and selectively polite. He only catered to passengers he deemed worthy of private air travel. At 4:14 p.m., the first passenger stepped aboard. "Good afternoon," said a tall black woman. Her damp curls framed a sharply defined face. Michael didn't reply. He merely scanned her from head to toe, lips tightening. "Your name?" "Elena Brooks." Michael flicked his eyes over the manifest. Only 3 passengers were listed, none named Elena Brooks. "And you are Mr. Adler's secretary?" "No, I work for no one," she answered, stepping past him without permission. Michael slid an arm out to block her path. "Ma'am, this is a private aircraft. Boarding requires authorization." "I am authorized," she said quietly, but with a finality that brooked no argument. Irritated, Michael tapped at the embedded cabin tablet, scrolling through the digital manifest until he found her name, omitted from the official list. His eyes narrowed. "Listen, Ms. Brooks, whatever mistake ground staff made, you can't be here without proof. I'll have to ask you to step off." Elena set her handbag on a seat and began typing in her phone, ignoring him. "I'm talking to you, sweetheart." Michael sneered, his tone sharp. She didn't look up. "I'm busy." A second passenger, a man in a gray suit, boarded quietly and settled in the rear. Michael greeted him warmly and poured him champagne in crystal glassware. Elena was offered nothing. When Michael reached to move her handbag without asking, she snapped, "Don't touch my things. You have no right. If you're not supposed to be here, your belongings can't take up space," he retorted. "Touch it, and you'll regret it." Michael chuckled coldly. "What's your plan? Call your boss? You're nobody here. In the wrong place entirely." The third passenger arrived, a distinguished older man. Michael instantly shifted to a polished, obsequious demeanor, offering a drink with a smile. Elena opened her laptop and began reviewing documents as the engines roared to life. That a few minutes into the flight, Elena rose and approached the bar. "Could you bring me a glass of champagne?" "We don't have champagne," Michael lied. The man in the gray suit looked puzzled. He was holding a champagne flute. "I'll have what he's having," she said calmly. Michael turned with a tight, mocking grin. "This isn't a budget airline. We don't cater to whims of people who had to take out a loan just to afford this seat. There's bottled water in the rear compartment." "Do you speak to all passengers that way?" she asked evenly. "No, only the ones who don't belong here." She held his gaze. "Done." "What?" "Done spitting your venom." He stepped closer, eyes glinting. "You think you're clever? You're nothing, just a pretty face on a seat you didn't earn. A prop in a world you don't belong to." The tension in the cabin thickened. The man in the gray suit lifted his head, sensing trouble. "Say that again," Elena murmured. Michael leaned in, lowering his voice. "You're a nobody who doesn't belong here." Something inside the moment snapped. She pointed toward the cabin door, but he grabbed her arm. She tried to pull away. His hand shot up. Smack! The sound cracked through the cabin like a gunshot. Elena staggered back, her cheek flushed crimson. Silence fell. The man in the back began, stunned. Elena didn't move when the man in the gray suit stepped off the jet. She remained seated, her eyes fixed on the open doorway, as if she knew precisely who, or what, was waiting outside. Michael glanced toward the SUV again. The man with the earpiece spoke briefly into his sleeve. The other man, tall and broad-shouldered, simply stood still, his gaze locked on the cabin interior. "What's going on?" Michael muttered, forcing a laugh he didn't feel. Elena finally rose, her movements deliberate. She slipped her laptop into her bag, adjusted the strap, and walked toward the door without so much as a glance at him. Halfway there, she stopped and turned. "You asked earlier if I belonged here," she said quietly. "In a few minutes, you'll have your answer." Michael's stomach tightened. He tried to mask it with sarcasm. "Oh, so now you're going to tell me you're royalty?" Or maybe a celebrity I haven't heard of? Elena gave a small smile. Not royalty, not a celebrity, but close enough to ruin you. She descended the narrow stairs, her heels clicking against the metal. The tall man stepped forward instantly, murmuring something into her ear. She nodded, handed him her bag, and walked toward the SUV. The rear door opened from the inside. Michael leaned halfway out of the cabin, craning his neck to see who was inside. All he caught was a glimpse of a dark suit, polished shoes, and a powerful silhouette in the shadows of the vehicle. Whoever it was, Elena greeted them with the kind of familiarity that spoke of more than business. She slid into the SUV without looking back. The tall man turned and climbed the stairs into the jet. Michael straightened, forcing a professional smile. "Can I help you with something?" The man's face remained unreadable. "Michael Trent, yes. You're coming with me." Michael's laugh was brittle. "Excuse me." The man stepped closer, his sheer presence erasing the need for further explanation. "Now." Michael glanced toward the cockpit, as if the pilots might intervene. They didn't. The older passenger was already gone, and the cabin suddenly felt too small, too exposed. "What is this about?" Michael demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The man ignored the question and gestured toward the stairs. Michael hesitated for half a second before the tone of the order, and the quiet menace in the man's eyes pushed him into motion to the base of the stairs. The warm evening air felt heavy. The SUV's rear door was still open. Inside, Elena sat beside a man whose presence seemed to draw the air out of the space around him. He was broad-shouldered, his close-cropped hair streaked with gray, his expression cool but unblinking. "Mr. Trent," the man said in a voice that was calm but carried the weight of command. "Do you know who I am?" Michael shook his head. "You should, but it's better for you that you don't." The man leaned slightly forward. "I understand there was an incident on this flight." Michael swallowed hard. "Look, if this is about the misunderstanding with..." The man raised a hand, silencing him. "You put your hands on her." Michael's protest caught in his throat. She stopped. The man's voice didn't rise, but it had the force of a door slamming shut. "You work in a world where courtesy is currency, where discretion is survival. You failed at both, and now your career is over." Michael's pulse thudded in his ears. "You can't. I can, and I will. Consider this a courtesy call. The alternative is less polite." The tall man with the earpiece stepped closer to Michael, his presence making the choice clear. "Get in the other vehicle," the man in the SUV said. "You'll be escorted to collect your belongings. By tomorrow morning, your name will be removed from every crew roster in the network. You'll never work in private aviation again. If you try, I'll know." Michael stood frozen, shock clawing at his composure. The tall man guided him toward a waiting sedan. As Michael slid into the back seat, he glanced toward the SUV one last time. Elena was watching him through the tinted glass, her expression calm, almost pitying. She lifted a hand, not to wave, but in a small, deliberate gesture of finality. Then the SUV door closed. The two vehicles pulled away from the airfield in opposite directions. In the sedan, Michael stared out the window, his mind reeling. The runway lights blurred into streaks of gold. He replayed every word, every sneer, every choice he'd made since she boarded. It wasn't just a slap. It was the arrogance, the contempt, the certainty that she couldn't touch him. Now she had erased him in less than an hour. At the same time, in the SUV, Elena leaned back against the seat. "Thank you for coming," she said to the man beside her. "I told you," he replied. "If anyone touches you, they answer to me." Elena allowed herself the faintest smile. Outside, the city lights grew brighter as they left the airfield behind. The man's phone buzzed once. He read the screen, then showed it to her. It was a single message. "Handled. He won't be a problem again." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, letting the quiet settle. The SUV turned onto a wide avenue, disappearing into the night. Somewhere behind them, Michael Trent was still trying to understand exactly who Elena Brooks really was, and how one flight had destroyed him. He would never get the answer.